Welcome back to the Hats We Wear. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Domikah Olagbegi. So hopefully I said that right. She's going to talk about the hats she wears, the joys and struggles of them, and how she's navigated through it. So thank you, Domikah, for joining me today.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to be here with you, Beth.
So tell us about the hats you're wearing right now.
So currently, I am a mental health wellness coach, as well as a private practice owner, as well as a mom to two toddlers and a wife to an amazing husband. So I am juggling all of those hats right now, Beth.
So what hat specifically do you want to talk about?
I would like to talk more about the mental health aspect of it because I feel like that's going to be very important. I work specifically with with high achieving moms who are extremely overwhelmed and they're just kind of burnt out with life. And
Mhm.
so I work with them. And so I would like to talk a little bit more about that because wearing a hat, they're cool and it's something that a lot of women nowadays are wearing and they're wearing them proudly. But I want women to understand that there comes a time where we really have to take a seat and really check our health and our mental health and making sure that we're keeping that aligned so that we don't get too, overwhelmed and exhausted. And so that's where I come in at. And I help these women kind of navigate that.
Perfect. How did you land in this field of a mental health professional?
So I was born and raised in Chicago, and my father struggled with substance abuse. And so for a very long time, we did not know why he would struggle the way he would struggle and things like that. And so later on, we discovered that he was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. And so at that moment, it really kind of like took me on a journey to figuring out like what is this thing with mental health, especially in the African American community. And so it's stigmatized, and there are a lot of African Americans, and I have a lot of patients who've come to me with the same issue who are afraid to start medication. They're afraid to get help with their mental health. And so I really wanted to be a voice for all people, to kind of like letting them know, like, hey, there's someone who's relatable, there's someone who's knowledgeable who can assist you. And so that's what really started me on this journey with the mental health field.
Okay, so how do you work with patients now?
So currently, I just previously I'm semi-retired. So right now, I am a mental health wellness coach. So I see patients all over the world, and
Mhm.
so I work specifically with busy or high achieving moms who are
Mhm.
overwhelmed and who are burnt out and they need help. They are tired of relying on prescription medication. They're tired of increasing their medication. They don't know what's going on with themselves, and so I help them achieve an ability to control their emotions, to really dig deep down to the root cause of what's causing them to be so overwhelmed, what's causing them to be
Yeah.
so stressed out. And so that's where I come in and I kind of offer them a lot of support, mentorship, coaching, supplemental options, look at some lab work with them, a lot of those things as well at this time.
Nice. So do you work with, so you talked about lab work. So are you working with, like, are you one person in a team of people that works with this woman perhaps? Like, how do you get the lab work done? Do
What I'll
you
do
deal
is,
with, yeah,
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. I'm sorry.
that's
You're saying,
okay.
how do I get it done?
Yeah, like, if you mentioned lab work. So if a client of yours needs lab work, does she then go to a psychiatrist? Does she go to her primary care physician? Do you work with other professionals
Oh, that's a
for
great
this
question.
purpose?
Absolutely. I will definitely collaborate. And so what I'll do is I'll give them a list of some of the lab work that I recommend. And the lab work that I recommend, just to see if it's at an optimal level. You see, Beth, a lot of primary care doctors and other psychiatrists, they look at the parameters at which they were given in medical school. And so just because it's functioning, their levels and the patient is functioning okay, doesn't mean that they're at an optimal level. And so what I like to do is I like to take a look at some of their labs just to make sure that they're functioning at an optimal level in terms of their labs. And so I've had clients who've come to me and their vitamin D was at a 25, which is it's within the parameters, but it's more on a lower end. And so for me, I'm like, well, ideally, I would like for it to be closer to 40 or 50 or even higher, 60. And so what I'll do is I'll take a look at that. And then from there, I recommend the supplements because there are a lot of deficiencies that mimic psychiatric symptoms.
Really? That's interesting.
means that there are people who are on medication when they don't even necessarily have to be on them because they have some type of deficiency that's unknown.
I did
And
not know that. That is really fascinating.
absolutely. Your thyroid can mimic it, vitamin D deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency. There are a lot of different things that can mimic mental health symptoms.
Hmm. That's a note for the listener to make sure that you have the right doctors. I don't know where. All right, let's say I'm someone who's struggling and I want to work with you. Who else should I have on my team
It
to help
depends on
me?
it depends on where you are in the process, Beth. And I think this is going to be a very important question for your listeners, because if they're currently on a medication or if they're currently in therapy, that's great. Continue with that. Let me walk you along and kind of help direct you and guide you and see some of the blind spots that maybe your providers, they don't, they don't see, or some of the blind spots that your therapist or you don't see. And so what I would like to do is, if they're already being seen by a provider, what I can do is I can kind of help them coach them along
Okay.
the path of doing that. And so I have, in my experience of seeing thousands of patients in clinic, I have had the opportunity as a nurse practitioner to wean patient off medications or have them on the lowest amount. But as a mental health coach, I would like to kind of be a mentor or coach them through certain things that they can let their provider know, since I'm not operating in that role as a provider at this time.
Right. And also important to note that no one should go off medication without
No,
a
no
professional.
one,
Hmm.
exactly. No one should go off medication without their specific provider. It's very hard for anyone to say, hey, you should come off or you shouldn't be on it without knowing what's going on with you. My
Right.
only issue is when they're on it without getting to the root cause of what's causing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's someone like someone like who has a surgery because they're very, very overweight, and then they have the surgery, but they don't have any of the mental health care of what got them there to begin with and how they can be healthy. Yeah. It's the same
Absolutely.
exact type of thing. So how do you find that hat interferes? Because you said you're a mom of two toddlers. How does the hat of mental health professional, how does that work with being a mom?
Oh, wow. It works all day, every day with being a mom. You're constantly having to really control your emotions, in terms of like how you're feeling and your sadness or your mood, or if you're
Mhm.
anxious because now your kids are off to school, or a lot of times motherhood it is something that could potentially cause you to go into um, a period of struggling with mental health symptoms. So
Mhm.
I would give you an example here. So right after you give birth, your hormones change. You're deficient. You're breastfeeding. You're giving away all of your nutrients. Your body is depleted of all of these different things. And so this is a first for your body. And so right now, what you're experiencing, you're like, man, I'm the mommy blues, right, if you will,
Yeah.
or postpartum depression. And so
Mhm.
it's very prevalent because there are so many different changes that are going on in our body. And so at that phase is where when I would come in as a nurse practitioner and even as a mental health coach, I really make sure, hey, you have to be on high quality things, pure high quality sources of things to replenish what you've lost.
Mhm.
Okay. So after that process, now you're in the process of becoming more anxious because you're a first time mom and you're like, oh, I got to do everything right. And so there's so many things that affect in terms of motherhood that affects your mental health. And so I personally experienced it after I had my second child. I thought I would be okay. I was fine. I had a 2-year-old at home and I just had a baby. And then I ended up in the ER with a postpartum hypertension. And so I didn't know that I was stressed,
Mm.
but I thought what I was doing was what I had already been doing the previous 2 years. I'm just being a mom. It's normal, right? But my body was saying differently. And so we have to recognize our body and our symptoms that we're experiencing.
Yeah. How do you navigate being a mom and being and working and a wife? How do you navigate those three hats?
Beth, I am heavy on the health care. I'm heavy on the care for the children. I'm
Mhm.
heavy on the care for the cleaning services, admin, health, whatever help I can get in that regard, I really enlisted a lot of help. I personally, like I said, whenever I'm having a moment, I know when I can feel when my body is deficient in something, because I've recognized my bodies and I've taken supplements and I've studied, like I said, I told you, for years on
Yeah.
this topic. But when I feel that way, I really go towards like the supplements, and then I try to get a lot of help as a mom, family and friends. And then I talk about a lot of this in my course, but I really like to get a lot of help from family and friends. If I can get some cleaning services, if I can afford that, I definitely recommend that as well. Taking your PTO time and really evaluating your work situation. Right now, currently, I really personally feel like if you're a mom and you have the opportunity to do something work wise, 30 hours or less, I definitely think that can really help you as well, because you're not so overwhelmed. And so, these are just a few things that I talk about in that regard. And I really rely heavily on my faith. I really rely heavily. Like, I really look to every diaper that I'm changing, every task that I'm attending, every birthday party that I'm going to. I know that this means something to the Lord.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think too, what women especially have to get rid of is the guilt associated with having their child in daycare, if they have to work, and if they take a mental health day, if they take a sick day, which they considering a mental health day, put the kids in daycare and take your mental health day.
absolutely.
Take it for yourself. Don't keep your kids home because you need the day to replenish, to rejuvenate. Don't feel the guilt.
Absolutely. I
Mm.
personally feel like we should normalize being okay with it, even if we have childcare to some extent or another. Like, don't feel guilty if it's nanny at home, or if it's childcare,
Yes.
on a
Yes.
daycare. I personally feel like we should still be okay with like taking care of ourselves during that
Yeah.
time. I
Yeah.
know some moms who are full time, they're off work and they still have nannies, and they're the best wives to their husband because they're not as stressed. They're the best
Yes.
moms to their children. And so, and I totally understand. Not everyone, this is not ideal for everyone, right?
Yeah.
There's some moms who have to go out there and work. There are some single moms. There are
Mhm.
some moms who are out there, but I really, really, really would encourage them to take whatever pocket that they have where they can work on themselves and their self-care, and just have a day for themselves, a mental health day or a self-care day, taking that PTO on a Friday so you can have an extended weekend, whatever it takes for you to take care of yourself. It's going to be important.
What about the mom who she doesn't have benefits and she has to work, and she gets home to kid, maybe she works two jobs, and then she gets home and she has to be a mom. What are the little things that she can do to just take care of herself? What are some ideas of quick things that can help that stress and anxiety, do you think?
I think coming home and really just taking like a nice hot bath is great. Once you put the kids down, just having some time to yourself, even if
Mhm.
it's for a 30-minute drive to your favorite coffee shop or to your favorite, taco bar, whatever it takes for you to get some alone time with yourself.
Yeah.
Once the kids are down, you a cup of tea. And then again, if you can't afford to get some help, if you have a niece who's a teenager, if you have a mom, who is able, or a family member who's able to maybe come and clean for you once a week,
Or
or
neighbor or somebody's, it takes effort. You have to put the effort in to find somebody, but there is help out there. You just have to look for it.
someone in your church, your community group. A lot of
Yeah.
people actually volunteer, and a lot of resources that are out there for single moms. And I think that's going to be really, really, really important. And also to realize that their role as a single mom is one of the most important roles there is out there. I mean,
Mhm.
it's more important than 1,000 priests. And so what you're doing in your household and how you're raising and training your kids it's important, and you are being seen, you are being heard. God sees it. He loves you. He's willing and ready to send you help. I think just really getting to a place where we're realizing like that guilt, don't feel guilty about the current situation that we're in. This too shall pass. And so really enlisting help, as much help as possible.
Yeah. Just and don't stop. Just keep reaching out for help. Because I'm on a couple of moms groups for special needs kids. And that's what I'm hearing. That's why I asked that question, because so many of them have children that are really difficult, and it's difficult to find help that will watch them. So they feel like they're all alone.
Mhm.
And you know, they don't know, they can't get out. No one will come and watch their child. So it's important to figure out then ways within your home. That's why you said when the kids are asleep, have a cup of tea, read a book that you like, listen to music, just some way to get out of your brain space to
Or the
just
podcast
unplug.
with Beth.
Get
Your
get on a
favorite.
podcast. That's right. Listen to the podcasts. Yep, exactly. That's what I want to do. And I love that you're speaking to this because mental health is not anything to be ashamed of if you're struggling with mental health, because you know what? We all are in some form or another. It's just if we know the tools that we can use to help us through it. So it's nothing, absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And I think the stigma, what do you think? Do you think the stigma is starting to lift a little bit?
I do, and I'm so happy about that. And I'm glad
Yeah,
you asked that question because I am seeing it more and more and more now. Now, I think that there is still just some post-COVID distrust for kind of the healthcare system a little bit. So
yeah.
I see that a little bit when I have some providers, and I think as providers, we really have to be gentle with our patients and
Mm,
really listen to understand what are they going through
yeah,
and really care, like, how is your nutrition, how's your sleep routine, how much help are you getting, like all of those things matter.
yeah.
They how much out time, outdoor time are you spending, are you
Yes.
able to exercise at all of those things matter. And I'm not saying that it's something that you want to overwhelm yourself with, but you also want a provider that's going to really question and ask those things. And so I like what you said earlier, Beth. No one is exempt from struggling with their mental health. No
No,
one.
because we're
And
humans. We have a
we are
human brain. Yeah.
exactly. And I'm telling you from a provider I've seen thousands of clients, and I'm talking about from professional athletes all the way down to doctors and nurses and teachers and principals. I've seen them all. I'm talking every religion, every nationality. So I don't care how old you are, how young you are, what your race is, what your faith is, what, how much money you have. All of those things really, no one is exempt from it. And I think the great thing about that is that God knew that we would struggle at some point because in the Bible, he says, cast your anxieties on me. And so I think that we really have to understand that the things that we can't control, let's control those things. The things that we can't, I think we need to just kind of like put those burdens to the side and allow others to come alongside of us, to walk with us, right, and get help, and also to really cast those burdens on the Lord. And so for me, that has been very helpful in addition to other things that I've experienced with some of my clients as well.
That's wonderful. Is there any other hat that you're looking to put on that you're like, oh, I kind of want to try this? Or are you good right now?
I think for now, I'm researching and doing a few other things. So I just wrote my first book. I have an ebook out. Yes, it's called 7 Habits Mentally Stable People Don't Break. And so I literally dropped so many gems in that book to really help them kind of understand some of the basic things that I've seen with my most mentally stable clients and what they've
Mhm.
done. And so I kind of
Nice.
wrap it up and I package it in the form of the book. And I
Mhm.
also drop a lot of the supplements that some of my clients have used and some of the supplements that I personally use. And again, there are a lot of disclaimers in terms of like checking with your primary doctor, your
Absolutely.
medical provider, and there are a
Hmm.
lot of other things that go along with that. But generally speaking, there are a lot of great things in the book that I just dropped. And so I really like to continue to focus on my busy moms, my high achieving moms who are out there struggling and helping them really kind of navigate through these different this season of life that they're in. And so right now, that's exactly what I'm focused. That's the head, making sure that I am being the mom that I'm called to be,
Yeah.
and and I'm still running a practice. So I'm making sure that the practice is running smoothly and that all of the patients are taken care of, and then also making sure I help my busy mom. So it's been good. I've been this is really good. This is a really great season for me. And with all of the tips and the things that I really share with my clients, it has worked for me to the point where I haven't felt overwhelmed at all in any of these things. So
Oh, wonderful. Where can people buy your book?
Oh, they can go to a Happy Mind. So HAPPY mind, like your mind, MIND book, BOOK.com.
I'll put the link in the show notes. So all they have to do is click on it.
Yep. So they can get that. And then once they check out from the book, it'll be an option where they can kind of take a look at the course if they're interested in kind of learning more about the course and things like that. And so I'll give you the link for the course that they want to go to listen to my masterclass so they can see if it's even a good fit. It's called Tired of Survival Mode.com.
What
So
is it
are
again?
you tired of survival mode? You're tired of living in survival mode. TIRED OF survival mode MODE.com.
Oh, great. I love that.
Yep.
Tired
Because
of survival mode. Isn't that like encapsulates it right there.
They're functioning in survival mode.
We're in fight, flight, or freeze so much, and we don't even realize it. And the effect the hormones have, you know, when they're constantly being released, our poor adrenal gland is being worn out.
and you know what's so interesting? Like I said, I've seen thousands of clients, and I've only seen a handful of them ever get their cortisol levels tested.
There you go. Something that needs to be done that's not done.
It's mind blowing. I'm like, really? Like you're in this heightened level of stress for years and you've never, you know, and so and like I said, I think that my colleagues in the mental health and even all of the areas of the healthcare field, we're busy right now. It's a busy season. I mean, we're short staffed. Like there are a lot of things that are going on. And so a lot of times they only have 15, 20 minutes to get to you. And so they want to make sure that they get to the most important thing. You know, how are you doing? Is the medication having this? And then they have to move on because they're seeing 40 patients a day. And so it's really hard. And so I think that it's going to be the best thing that these women can do is have a team of people that can help them. You know, have your partner, have a coach that can help you see some of those blind spots that no one else has seen. And if you're in therapy, by all means, you know, just have someone to kind of help you along so that you don't feel like you have like an overload of things, but definitely have someone to kind of help direct you along the path.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Is there anything else? That sounds like a perfect closing point, but is there anything else that you want to add or before we close out?
No, I think that, you know, to all of the women out there and men as well, because I know that you have men listening to your podcast as well. There is help. No, there is hope. And so I think that we just continue to have to continue to ask those questions, you know, ask those questions to our providers. Don't be afraid. If you're concerned about something, or if you're experiencing something in terms of medication, or if you're ready to start medication, just reach out to your provider.
Yeah, and find one that you trust and find one that listens to you, because a lot of them don't, you know, they discount a lot. And find one that you trust and just keep looking and ask for help. Reach out for help. We all need it. Everybody needs a good coach or therapist or someone to help them unpack, because a lot of times we can't see it. We can't do it ourselves.
Yeah, even coaches.
Yeah, I have a coach.
I have two. If your coach, if they don't have a coach, then you need to find someone else. Like everyone needs it.
Everybody needs help unpacking. The professionals need help unpacking as well, because we can't see it for ourselves usually. So
therapist. So yeah, I think that what you said is a great point, and I think that hopefully your listeners get that point. And so yeah, and be gentle with your mental health. Just be gentle with it. Tomorrow needs you. It does. And so
what did you say? Tomorrow needs you?
Tomorrow needs you.
I love that. Tomorrow needs you. That's a perfect place to land. Yeah. So tomorrow needs you. I love that. I absolutely love that. So thank you so much for joining me, and to the listeners, thank you for listening as well. And I'll catch you next time on The Hats We Wear. Everyone have a good night.